This is Designing Security Products, where we talk about the intersection of cybersecurity and design and product design and research and all of that stuff. Today, I'm talking with Shawn Brandstetter, who is the Senior UX Designer at Graylog. So, Shawn, how you doing today?
Doing great. Yeah, the sun's finally out and North Idaho is warming up. It's great.
Awesome. I'd love for you to just tell me a little bit about kind of, what do you do at Graylog on the day-to-day?
Yeah. So this is a kind of a unique situation, really. Graylog has been around for around 10 years, and I am their first UX designer. I've been here probably a year, almost a year and a half. And in that time, we're really trying to gather our sea legs, if you will. It's trying to understand how UX fits into the overall development pipeline. Product it's kind of like a well-oiled machine here. And so is engineering. And now they threw this guy in the mix. And so right now I'm supporting 3 of our teams. And so I'm being pulled in every direction you can fathom. But at the same time, trying to work with each of the teams and working with leadership to figure out how do we establish a UX designer or even a UX program within Graylog.
Okay. So are you the solo UX practitioner there at the...
Correct.
Okay. So that means you're probably wearing a lot of different hats.
Tons of them. Yes.
Is your favorite one the Viking one with the...
Yeah, sometimes I have to come in yelling and screaming, but I'm not a yelling and screaming kind of guy. It's one of those things too is me as, because I've been working in design for a little over 25 years, and this is even a new experience for me is, I was just thrown into the battle, if you will. Right when I started, it was, hey, we already have these features coming out. We need you to just take a look at the current feature set that is going into this release. If there's anything that you want to tweak or massage, go ahead. And a lot of it has been just trying to figure out from my standpoint of how I fit in to this, because we're doing a lot of new feature builds. And slowly but surely, able to push out some of the UX initiatives that are really going to help the product team.
Yeah. So that's super interesting that you say that, because I find that there's always a balance between working on features and kind of thinking higher level strategically. And there's always a deadline, I guess, on getting these features done, right? Because we want them to be in the next sprint or in the next release or in the next quarter or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So do you have any secret sauce for balancing those two things, kind of the big strategic stuff with the features?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think we're actually starting, it's kind of a breakthrough going on right now, which is kind of nice. For the past 6 months or so, speaking with the front end engineers, we have a lot of design debt, both on the design side and on the code side that we really need to address. And so my direct boss, he and I have been working really diligently trying to figure out, okay, how do we fix UX debt while we release these new features? And something else that we could touch on a little bit later in the conversation, we've also introduced the design partner program, and we've reached out to actual users of the product. And we meet every 2 weeks to every 30 days, and we give updates on the product, but we really want to understand what their day-to-day life is. So that kind of adds to the number of hats that I'm wearing as well. But yeah, overall, as UX designers, one of the things that we really need to be careful of is, going in with this mentality, I'm going to change the world, I'm going to change this company, I'm going to put my mark here. And it's To me, when I was younger, I had that mentality, and then you quickly realize, well, the real world works this way, and so you kind of have to go with the flow, but insert yourself and make yourself very well known. Give some education. I think education is the key, not just saying, "Hey, it needs to be this way, otherwise X, Y, and Z is going to happen." And for me, I found that no matter whom I work with, it's okay, I think we could do a better job if we do this. And let's can we talk about it? Let's just discuss. And that's gotten me a lot further in product teams over the years. And it's definitely helped here. And now I'm actually kind of taking a step back where others are championing design systems, other people are championing the design partner program. So it's been fantastic, that education piece.
Great, fantastic. Okay, I heard you talk about several things there. Getting the design partner program going.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about kind of how that works from a logistics standpoint, right? Because I think design partners. I remember the first time I heard the term was when we started working with a security company, and for me, I thought like, aren't we the design? Because we typically are a third party that's working with the company on their product design. It's like, aren't
Yeah.
we your design partners? So it seems like a strange term to me. And then when I heard about it and they explained it, I was like, oh, okay, I totally get this now. But so maybe
Yeah.
tell a little bit about how design partners work at Graylog.
Yeah, and I don't think this pertains strictly to Graylog. I think this pertains to any designer across any board. We as UX designers, we have these fundamentals that have been ingrained in us over, our entire career of here's how UX typically works, here how humans interact with technology and typical UI interaction. We're not the experts when it comes to the product. It's the day-to-day people that are using the product. And I think it serves us better as UX professionals to really understand, get in their shoes, and empathy and all of these buzzwords that we throw out. Yeah, that's great, but I really truly want to understand what your day-to-day is. And sometimes that is just spending some time on a certain feature saying, okay, Mr. User, we need to talk about this feature. How does this even fit into your workflow? And sometimes you'll find it doesn't at all. Sometimes you'll find it is the main feature that they use. Fantastic. Show me how you use it, because you never know. The third party software that we like to use, like Post Hog or Hotjar or one of those, that only gives us so much. And getting into the mindset of the user, it opens up so much opportunity from a UX standpoint and from a product growth standpoint. And so the product team uses this, our sales teams use this, and I try to record every single session. It will never, I always caveat everything. It does not leave the Graylog premises, or if I'm working elsewhere, it will not leave the premises, but we want to understand it. And I personally like it because I hate taking notes during the conversation because it takes my attention from the conversation. And I like to see when people are talking about something, what's their emotional status? Are they angry? Are they happy? And so those facial expressions will give away any underlying feelings about the product, the app, or whatever. And then on top of that, giving that direct communication to the product team from the consumer aspect has been extraordinarily helpful. I get emails almost daily from our design partners that say, you know what, I'm having a really difficult time with this. I think if we did something like this would really help my workflow. And so, yeah, it's really helping create that deeper relationship with our customers that I find truly exciting.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it really is all about getting insights from people who are actually using your app, right? Or the people
Yeah,
who you want to use your app.
absolutely. Absolutely. And, it's naive of us to think that we know all, and because nobody knows all. And it's quite interesting when product teams see some of these recordings and they go, well, that completely changes the way I think about this feature. So it really is eye opening for the entire company at times.
Yeah, absolutely. So, talk to me a little bit about maybe the internal process that you use for sharing these insights that you have, and especially like how do you determine what are the important things to kind of bubble up for them to be able to see? Because you might have a 30-minute or a 45-minute session with someone, and the engineer might watch that whole session, but probably they'd be more interested in, hey, here's this 2 minutes and this 4 minutes. That's where the gold is.
Yeah. So right now it is very rudimentary, if you will. I'm using a Google Sheet and we're using Zoom. So I copy all of those Zoom recording links to a page in my Google Sheet. And then I just go through it and take any notes of here's what the customer said. Here's what I got out of this. And then I invite others to do the same, because what I hear may be completely different than what a PM hears or what an engineer hears. And that document is open to the entire company. So anytime anyone wants to listen to it, they're more than welcome to. Anytime anyone wants to make notes in that document, they're more than welcome to. Right now, this is kind of the beginning of this. And so again, we're trying to figure out how this fits in the Graylog way. And so eventually it'll be a little bit more smooth, a little bit more slick and modern. My colleagues sometimes laugh at me. They're like, "Oh my gosh, Shawn, you're using what?" And so, you know what? It's the tool I have on hand. It's super easy to use. It does exactly what I need it to do, and I can get it in front of people really quick. So, love it or hate it, it works.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Don't make a system any more complex than it has to be, especially to begin
Right.
with, right? Complexity will come
Oh yeah.
as
Yeah.
needed, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious, have you toyed around with using any AI to help kind of extract the nuggets from those?
That
Okay.
Yeah, that will be definitely the next step. We do use plugins like Otter AI, which will kind of give you that overview in a text format. And it does work, but I still think that there's some better tools out there, which I'm still in the process of researching. I know a good friend of mine has some UI tools that I'm kind of kicking around
Okay.
and testing out. So if something arises, I'll definitely let you know. But right now, we just don't have the luxury of time.
Sure. I totally get that. One of the tools we've been messing around with is using Notebook LM, which is Google's one that they have, and it's built specifically for research. So it seems to work pretty well of just throwing in the transcript and then you can ask questions of it. It's where it's super helpful, in my opinion, is I'll kind of remember, oh, I remember I talked with a customer and they talked about this specific problem. Where was that? Did any of these interviews mention this? And they'll say, yes, Jeff and Sally and Pam mentioned that. Here's what Jeff said at 3 minutes and 42 seconds. I was like, ooh, awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. So
super
it's
cool.
it's really powerful, and we've just started playing around with that, but it's been really powerful to be able to do that. So
Well, we do use the Google Suite, so it's probably something that especially with AI, sometimes it's really tough to get through the security and IT. So I'm going to look into that because that sounds exactly like what we're needing.
okay, great. Yeah, we've got a customer that is also using. This customer is already using the Google Suite, and so we're like, okay, well, here's what we're planning on doing. And they're like, yeah, I think that meets our requirements. We're like,
Yeah, perfect.
yeah. And there are some little workarounds that you can do where we've gone in and kind of redacted, maybe is the right word. Like I've taken a transcript and say, okay, every time you see this company name, I want you to put in Acme. And every time you see this person's name, I want you to put in John Smith,
Very
So
cool.
I have done some stuff like that. So then you're obfuscating it even more from the AI. They don't know which company you're talking about. So that may or
That's
may not
pretty
be
awesome.
required, but kind of a hack.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it'll definitely help save, some IP potentially.
Yeah, hopefully. So we had talked before a little bit about where you find inspiration when you're designing the application. So Maybe tell us a little bit about that. Like where do you find inspiration when you're working on it?
All over the place. I do like to do a lot of competitor research. So that's always a given. Sometimes take a look at some of the bigger companies, the more established companies. The thing that I really like to do is dive into some of these products and then start setting up my own instance if I need to, and then walk through workflows and just see how they solve. Sometimes some of these problems are huge. And so, how do they simplify it? And there's not a lot of the big companies that do a good job of it. And what I'm finding is that's still very inspiring because I can see all of this data and I can see how I get from point A to point B, which is sometimes like this. And it's like, you know what? We could do the exact same thing. We can simplify it here. I think we have an opportunity to take our data and do something similar to here, but let's smooth this out. Let's make this much more UX friendly and simplify this workflow. One of the things that a lot of UX designers do, they go straight to Dribble, for instance, or they'll go straight to Chat GPT or some of the others, and then have that create a solution or find inspiration in there. Sometimes it can be pretty inspiring or provide some interesting thoughts, but I usually go back to my old school days. Nothing beats a pen and piece of paper. I mean, that is always a great thing to do. And having, not a huge number of people in these meetings, but just having, two or three other individuals who look at problems a little bit differently. Maybe it's an engineering aspect, maybe it's a product aspect, but we can take all of those opinions and try to figure out a really good solution. But, play around with all kinds of applications out there, even if it's not in your field. I love playing around with applications and just seeing, okay, this person solved a problem this way. I wonder if that could pertain to this type of workflow and prototype it out. We as designers, that old adage, hey, if you have time to lean, you have time to clean. Well, for user experience designers, I personally don't feel that there's ever any downtime for us, because when there is that break in between projects, I'm trying to learn. So trying to grow my knowledge in the space that I'm in, I use Figma quite heavily. So learning more about Figma, how can I push the boundaries there? And sometimes I just hand code just because I have not coded in probably 10 or 15 years. And so sometimes I like to kind of code that way. When I'm talking with engineers, I know exactly what they're saying, or at least know the basic idea about why I can do something or why I can't do something. So inspiration is all over the place. And believe it or not, even automobiles, especially the more techie automobiles, they're solving some very complex problems as well. And how do I give the user information quickly, but not distract them from the task at hand, which is focusing on the road? So I try to look way outside my comfort zone, way outside of just the bubble that I'm currently in, and just try to grab as much mental data as I can.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and we can be inspired by everything we see.
Mm-hmm.
My dad used to. You're talking about looking at competitors, and my dad had lots of little quotes, but one of the ones that was my favorite was he said, "Nobody is useless. If nothing else, they can be an example of what not to do." And so
Right.
sometimes you can look at some competitors and you're like, I'm not sure that really works. Okay, great. I don't have to try that. I can tell from watching something they did that is not a path we want to move forward with.
Yeah, exactly. And, it usually opens up, or it challenges me to think completely different than where my head was at when I first started a new feature or a new project altogether, which is super cool.
Yeah. So I'd mentioned before that we love telling stories on here. And so I'm curious, can you think of a story where you tried something and it didn't work?
Yeah. There's actually, in 25 years, I think everyone has more than a handful of those stories. But years ago, I was leading all of the interactive products at a hospital in Omaha, Nebraska. And, we had this sitemap built out for the new website, which was going to go on the marketing side. And, it was doing fantastic. And we launched it. Everyone loved it aesthetically. It was a good looking website. And then you start getting into analytics and you see, well, this is one of the main pages that we are forcing people to go into in order to get to this section of the website. Well, that wasn't even being used ever. And that was a major piece of our, and so those analytics, just spending, I think I was using Hotjar and watching all of those recording sessions, and people were struggling to get to this section because this page was in the way and nobody wanted that info. So they completely skipped over it. And then they would call us and go, hey, we need to get let's say it was an appointment for a doctor. And where is that? And, me and my team, we just go, oh man, that was a huge, huge mistake. And so the nice thing is you can quickly adjust and you watch those analytics completely change as we make those changes.
Yeah, great. So 2 follow-up questions on that. One is, what did you do to fix it? And secondly, if you knew then what you know now, what would you have done differently? But let's start with the first one. How did you fix it?
So it was just a matter of getting rid of that barrier to entry. So remove that page altogether and put everything that the consumer needed right on that single page. It was just kind of a no-brainer for us. And the way that I would have easily fixed that is do more research up front. Talk to patients sooner than later and just understand this workflow. And, I was kind of new at the hospital. And so I didn't have a clue of what the most important thing was there. It was just me and the leadership team were saying, okay, we need to do this. We need to do that. Cool. Let's build a sitemap out so we can kind of understand this. And they actually had great insight, but we solved the problem completely wrong because we didn't have the actual user at the table. You live and learn, and you quickly realize that that's never happening again.
Yeah, that's great. I love those problems that I can learn once.
Yeah.
I try to avoid the ones where I have to seem to learn them over and over again. I seem to have plenty of those.
I think we all do.
Yeah, but so you were talking about this was something when you were working in healthcare. So I'm curious. Yeah. I'm 25 years. I'm gonna guess. Well, actually, I know because you just said you're in healthcare. So not all 25 of those years have been in cybersecurity. So what Correct. Are some of the things that are unique when you got into the cybersecurity industry that were maybe surprising or that were a unique challenge or something you had to figure out?
Really, the biggest insight for me was the consumer. Instead of a B2C, it's a B2B. So you are looking at the product exactly the same, but your user is completely different and they have a completely different knowledge about technology. Whereas when you're in healthcare, you're usually going to get not a younger, more tech savvy individual. It's probably going to be an older person that is either just at that cusp of, okay, when I was older, tech started coming out like the iPhone and I could start doing stuff on my phone. So I kind of get it. But then you still have those baby boomers out there that are aging and they need healthcare, and not all of them want to use a website. And I totally understand it. Whereas, in our neck of the woods on the cybersecurity part, it's completely opposite. I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to use a website. I want to solve my problem and I want to move on to the next problem. Or it's how do I prevent a problem before it arises? And so that is truly the mindset. Now, your security is extraordinarily tight on the healthcare side, but with these larger corporations, security is tight on the corporate side, but you're not really dealing with that. You're not dealing with the upper management. You're working with the day-to-day people that are in the trenches performing tasks. Their entire job usually, focuses on your product. And so It's definitely a different mindset, but security is always and should always be on your mind, when you're dealing with applications like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So that was kind of the biggest thing that surprised. Well, I guess a big change was, if I heard this right, is that your user is very different and is way
Mm-hmm.
more tech savvy, and
Correct.
the work they're doing is way more technical as well too, right?
Oh yeah, yep. And you get challenged. I mean, our customers in our design partner program, they will challenge you in every single discussion. Why are you doing it this way? We need to do it this way. Whereas the consumer is, well, this isn't very good. It's not very intuitive, but I can make a phone call.
Right.
And we really don't want that. And so it's still imperative to have those partners, which we did at the hospital. It was easy for us to reach out to patients and say, hey, would love to pick your brain.
Do you find it to be more of a challenge to find the enough people to do testing with and kind of do the research with?
No, I never have. People, and I will also kind of caveat that with, I'm always looking for people that spend a lot of time with the application
Mm,
or who have some sort of relationship with the company that I'm at, either positive or negative. I actually really enjoy the negative relationships because it really opens up your eyes.
mm.
But I do try to keep it focused on the user experience side, not the company side.
Yep.
So if you're angry at the company itself, here's a phone number, you call them. But for the most part, people that love your product are still going to have an opinion. And then it's imperative for us as UX practitioners, we need to be able to parse through that and figure out, okay, this is one of those cool features versus this is a necessity and we really need to put our focus here. And it's always good to have that really close relationships with your product managers so they can help you decide, okay, this is what we need to work on versus this is what we need to work on.
Okay. So if you were going to advise someone who's a solo practitioner like yourself working in a cybersecurity company and maybe they're having trouble finding people to be able to test with, what advice would you give them?
So I have the help of our customer service team. And they have great relationships with our customers. So what we did is we just sat down at a round table Zoom, and we're like, okay, this is the individual that I'm looking for, or individuals that I'm looking for, and do you have anyone that meets those check marks? And they will give you a list of people, but then they will also weed out the ones that they feel is a good, they're in meetings with them all the time, so these would be good candidates, if you will, because we don't have that luxury of talking with customers all the time. So sales is great to talk to, customer service is great to talk to, people that really have that open communication with the customers. Because like you said, we're individuals right now. We don't have time to do all this ourselves. So we really need the support of other teams. So what I would suggest is make sure you get involved in those other teams. I have reoccurring meetings with our customer service team. We always have product meetings quite frequently. Make sure those relationships are good and get involved in the engineering side of it too. I mean, you're gonna see a lot and hear a lot that you had no idea because we're shielded quite a bit from the inner workings of the application a lot of times. So, make yourself available and build those relationships and let other people help where they can.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fantastic advice for anyone, even if you're already doing some of those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. Yeah, I'm looking here, Shawn. I can't believe it. We've been talking for over 30 minutes already so far. So
It's awesome.
any last story that you might want to share? Maybe something that went well, something that didn't go well, something super interesting, something that you wish you had known when you first got started?
Well, when I first got started, it was interesting. So back in the day, when I was going to school, it wasn't called user experience. It was called web design. And yeah, I know my gray hair is starting to show. But when when we start out, we're very naive and we don't understand just how important it is to get actual user feedback. And for those young people, I would highly suggest getting involved in any aspect of the company that you can. Just learn as much as you can about the inner workings of this company or this industry that you're in and try to understand it really, really well. We also come into our careers with a very narrow focus, and it's design. I try to, anybody that I'm mentoring or anybody that I'm talking to, I always tell them you need to have a product mentality of understanding the cause and effect for every decision that you make. Having a strategic mindset when you're looking at a product is extraordinarily important because we shouldn't be just designers. We should really be product people. We should be an advocate for the user, we should be an advocate for the company, and we should be an advocate for the engineers. And if we could wear those hats, I think your career is going to just be fantastic, and you'll grow much faster as a designer if you do. And ultimately the product and the work that you do is just going to be that much better.
That's an amazing piece of advice. I appreciate your time today. Thanks for talking with me, and looking forward to talking more. Maybe we'll see each other at a conference or something. That'd be great to hang out
Oh,
IRL.
it'd be awesome.
So, yeah,
Yeah, thank you so much, William. I appreciate the time.
absolutely.